we will study the Maha Rudropasana. We will give the title as Maha Rudropasana. That means Upasana is contemplation, study of the great Rudra. Maha Rudropasana will be the series from now. So we start the chanting of the Rudra with the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. So we'll look at this entity of Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya and what all this means. So one of the tasks that I have set myself is to justify the use of Om in relation to the study of the Rudra. Why should we use the word Omkara when we are studying this deity Rudra? So is there any internal etymological or Shastra authority which will define Omkara and point us towards Shiva or Rudra? So that we will come to that. But before that, we'll see what is this Om. This is the one syllable, also known as Ekakshara authority. Mandukya Upanishad talks about Omiti Ekaksharam Idam Sarvam. Omityekaksharam Idam Sarvam. Omiti, the Om. Thus, it is said, used the one word, one letter, Ekaksharam. This is everything, Sarvam. Bhutam, which encompasses everything of the past. Bhavishyat, which is the future. Sarvam Omkara Eva. Everything is none other than Om itself. Yacha Anyat Trikala Atitam Tadapi Omkara Eva. Whatever is other than past, present and future, if there is anything other than this, that also Om. So what is other than past, present and future? Past, present and future is Kala or time, isn't it? So what do you think of instantaneously when you are thinking of time? You think of space. So space also has got the three stages, that is there, here and elsewhere. So that also is Om. Therefore, Om Ityeka Aksharam Idam Sarvam. How to prove that Om is everything? That which completely encompasses the entire spectrum of time and space is Om. Therefore, all this is Om. So the Upanishad does not stop at that. It will say, it is explained thus. Tasya Upavyakyanam. Now I am going to give you an explanation for this. All that was, that is, and that will be is Om Bhutam Bhavishyat iti Sarvam Omkarameva. So, if something is encompassing the past, present and future and the entire space, it should be there before and it should also be surviving after time and space is no longer there. That means after the entire creation is withdrawn, then also it must be there. So that brings us the question, how did even time and space come into being at all? For that our Shastra says, it came by means of the vibration of Prakriti, vibration of nature, also called as Spandanam. Spandana or Spanda Shastra, also it is called. Kashmir Shaivism, especially Abhinavagupta, was the one who talks a lot about this. So Spanda Shastra or the vibration was the one which started. And what is science telling us today? Everything is vibration only. And that vibration is the sound Om. Now we also talked about the relationship between sound and its meaning. Vak artha viva sampraktau. So wherever there is sound, there must be meaning. So if there is a sound called Om, there must be meaning also. And if we say that Om is the one which encompasses the entire desha and kala, time and space, then the Om, the sound itself, must also represent the meaning that it is the entire creation. So Vak and Artha, therefore this Shabda or this sound Om, which is the most universal, all-inclusive sound, is the universe. Of what relevance is this for us? It is because this sound is utterable by a human being. Isn't it? Suppose there is a sound which is subsonic or supersonic, which can neither be articulated by a human being nor heard. And if that Om was like that, then we would never experience that. But this is something that is utterable by a human being, perceptible to the senses by a human being. That's the profound nature of Omkara. And we said that this also represents the universe. What is the nature of the universe? The nature of the universe is a combination of the seen and the unseen. Drishta, adrishta. That is why I took the example of seeing the mother and the father in the child. What is the child? The child is drishtam or seen, isn't it? What is the adrishtam, that which cannot be seen? It is the presence of the father and the mother in the child is adrishtam. Logical kada? So similarly, drishta or the seen universe, if that is Omkara, if Omkara can be parsed, mathematically parsed, then even the unseen universe also can be perceived. So that means this is the most suitable sound that can be employed by a contemplator to reach the truth. And that truth, the Rudradhyaya is going to establish by looking at this Om and then completely analyzing this Om into Shatarudriya, into hundreds of different, 100 is infinite, into different formats. Some which we consider as good and some which we consider as bad. All that manifestation takes place from Om. This is why we start the chanting of the Rudradhyaya with Omkara. And then, so what kind of a entity this Om should be then? If it is something that is in and beyond, in that case, it must be the very nature of the entire creation, very nature of the both the microcosm and the macrocosm, the microcosmic man and the macrocosmic universe. So when we say it is the microcosmic, this Om or the Pranava is also called as Pratyagatman. Pratyak means which is inside, deep inside. The self that is deep inside, Pratyagatman, is none other than Om. Then, or in other words, the essence of the being is also Om. Now, this sound, Om, the vibration of the creation, is it restricted or fettered by the five elements? Can can the presence or the absence of the five elements negate the existence of Omkara and its vibration ability? Answer is no. Because it is from the Omkara that the five elements come out, isn't it? Therefore, a product cannot negate the ability of the source. Similarly, if Om is the Pratyagatman, or the inner essence of the individual, it cannot be fettered by Deha, Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara. So it cannot be disturbed by the personality of the person also. But since nothing can be either existence or nothing can be a potential without Om, this Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira, the gross and the subtle body, cannot exist without Om. So here is how we should understand. The world cannot exist without Om, but Om can exist without the world. Simply put. Therefore, where do we want to go? We want to go beyond, through, but beyond all these fetters. It is like walking through a maze. Pratyagatmanam. Pratyagatmanam is also Pratyaganandam. That means that essential happiness or joy which is there within you. Pratyaganandam. Brahma Purusham. That Brahman, also we call as Purusha in the Purusha Sutta. Brahma Purusham. Pranavaswarupam. This Pranava also is Om, which will manifest itself into gross, subtle, and the causal, called Akara, Ukara, Makara. Akara, Ukara, Makara, iti, Triaksharam. One letter becoming into three, Triaksharam, Pranavam, Tat, Etat, Omiti. So what we are doing is a skill of reducing the entire creation of diversity and multiplicity into one. The purpose of this reduction is to remove duality. Because anything that is two creates fear. Anything that is two creates me and the other. And therefore to remove this Dvaita, Omkara is presented as the seed mantra. And therefore Om is also called as Brahma Bija mantra or Brahma Vidya mantra. Usually the meditation on Om is given only to the sannyasis. Pure meditation of Om is not allowed for us who is in the family to do that. Therefore, we always have to combine it with our Ishtadaiva or a deity who is a personal God. Therefore, we say Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namah Shivaya. So these are the various formats used for the family people. Now the connection.
But why not to chant the Om even for small amounts of time, 10 minutes, 20
If you
minutes?
do only Om, 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 and then with all the knowledge of the wisdom behind Om, then we start negating everything in the world. In fact, it is also going to evolve into an aversion towards everything in the world. So for a sannyasi, the most important thing is that you must become averse to the world. And in that aversion, they actually run away from the world also. So that we don't want that to happen prematurely. It will, if it happens of its own accord, let it be. For such people, it will happen. No, you cannot stop it also. But then we should not do anything prematurely. It is like plucking a mango before becoming ripe. If you pluck it from the tree, then it will not be edible. So we have to let it ripen. So until it ripens, we have to be in the world. Pranavo vachakasyasya Shivasya Paramatmanaha. Pranamo Vachakaha Asya. This Pranava or Omkara is the indicator of Shivasya Paramatmanaha. Parama Atmanaha, of the highest self, which is auspicious. So Pranavo Vachakasya Asya Shivasya Paramatmanaha. Shiva Rudradi Shabdanam Pranavohi Parasmritaha. Whether you use the word Shiva, Rudra, Adi means Vishnu, Krishna, Rama, whatever you are using, it is all pointing to only one, that Omkara, which is none other than Shiva. The Shiva Purana itself talks about this. Pranavo hi param sakshat. Omkara is actually the highest. Parameshwara Vachakaha. It is the indicator of the highest truth. Do you remember where we have come across this? Yoga Sutra. Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha. Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha. Here you see all the scriptures use Omkara as the indicator of Ishvara. Tasya Vachakaha. Here also Shiva Purana also uses this. Pranavo hi parasakshat Parameshwara Vachakaha. Vachyaha. So now what is the use? Vachyaha Pashupatihi Devaha. Who are we addressing? We are addressing to the Lord of all the beings. Vachyaha Pashupatihi Devaha. Pashunam Pashamochakaha. One who removes all the fetters that bind an individual. So why do we need to start the chanting of the Rudra with Omkara? It is so that all the fetters that bind us are removed. This is a key point that we should not forget. Because in our study of the Rudra Adhyaya, we come across saying a thief is Shiva, a burglar is Shiva, a drunkard is Shiva, isn't it? So suddenly the scripture becomes offensive if we do not understand this concept. What you see outside, nomenclature of a person as a thief, as a drunkard, all those things are what is technically called upadhis. Upadhi means a superimposition. A superimposition upon a pure personality within. So to be able to see that is the purpose of knowing the meaning of Om. Vachakena samahutaha. By using the indicator. Vachakena. What is the Vachaka? Pranava. By using the Vachaka or the Pranava Omkara, samahutaha, one who is completely organized. A person who is organized in his mind this way. Pashun mochayate kshanat. In 1 minute he will remove all the fetters that bind us and removes all the sorrow and all the duality. Tasmat vachakata siddhihi. And therefore, by uttering Om, it is not merely uttering Om, but going behind the meaning of the Om, Pranavena Shivam Prati. That means you travel towards Shiva. Next week I will give you some definitions specific to Shiva as the etymology of the word Omkara comes. So now we will slightly move forward. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. So the next word is Namaha. The word Namaha comes from the root Nam Prahvi Bhavane. That means to do Namaskara, means to bow down, to salute. So for the sake of saluting. This Namaha is also an indication of Brahman. So what was one indication we already saw? Om. Om, Namaha, Swaha, Svadha, Vashate. All these five are indicative of Brahman. So to attain this Brahman, you can either use Om or Namaha. Om is through speech, Namaha is through body. Why not do both? So that is why we say Om Namaha, isn't it? Then you are now integrating both your speech and the body. Speech, when you say something deliberately, consciously, then your mind is also there. So mind and speech, that means Manasa, Vacha, those two are there. How to include Kaya? Do prostration. That is why you will see so many words of Namaha, Namaha, Namaha in the entire Rudradhyaya. Otherwise, what would you say? What is this repetition? Isn't it? Dirukti dosha is removed by saying each one of the Namaskara is bending the body in sync with the mind and speech. Why should we emphasize this? Because what is our experience? There is no synchronization between what our body does, our mind thinks, and our speech. Totally disconnected. Isn't it? It is because of this disconnect Sukha and Dukkha are there. Look at the depth of this thinking. Why do we suffer? Or why do we misunderstand suffering to be enjoyment? Isn't it? It is because there is no harmony between the body, mind and speech. And with one stroke of genius, our sages say, Om Namaha. And then, so, walk, speech. Speech is associated with Manaha. Then we said Namaha and used our body, Kayaihi. So these three are there. Now we have got to identify a deity, which is worshipful. Why do we worship anything? Right now we are worshipping the scripture. Let us not go into religion. We'll go into knowledge. Now we are worshipping the scripture for its knowledge. Why do we worship knowledge? So that I can get knowledge. Isn't it? So this Rudra, who is a Bhagavan, we want his knowledge. And therefore, what do? We employ our speech, walk, we employ our mind, Manaha, we employ our body, Kayaihi, Aradhya, worshipful, knowledge, Adhinatva, mastery, Sampadanam, acquisition. To acquire the mastery of the knowledge, we use our body and mind. Right? With speech. And what is the knowledge that we are talking about? We are talking about the highest truth, also known as Brahman. Brahmatva. So we have got to now use how many words? We have to say walk, Manaha, Kayaihi, Aradhya, Adhinatva, Sampadanam, Brahmatva. So many words we have to use. Apara Namadheyaha, one word which conveys all this meaning, Nama Shabdartha. The meaning of the one word Namaha completely defines the process of speech, mind, body, identification of a worshipful entity, mastery over a worshipful entity, perfection of knowledge. Everything is embedded in one word Namaha. So, Om Namaha. So much is there in that. So now, what is this knowledge that we are trying to master? Next question, right? Because otherwise it's too nebulous. It has got 3 levels. Knowledge has got 3 levels. First level, it is called as Karyatmakam. Karyatmakam means, what is the first thing that you identify in any transaction? An activity, isn't it? Only when there is an activity you identify that. Something was inactive, it became active. There was a transition. Something is active, it became inactive. There is a transition. Then only you recognize change. So first thing is you have to identify the Karya Rupam. And what is Karya Rupa? Vedanta says it is Avidyatmakam. Any activity takes place because of ignorance. There is no activity whatsoever which is not initiated by ignorance. Where there is knowledge, where there is perfection of knowledge, there will be no activity at all. There is no need for activity. Isn't it? So when you see this activity, that means there is Avidyatmakam. Because of Avidyatmaka, you need matter, material, chemistry, physics, engineering, all those things are there to make things modify from its original state. This modification is called Sarva Upadana Daya, Sarvatmatattvam. So what is it we have to understand in here? Wherever there is activity, there is the support of this absolute Brahman. First way to see. Second way to see. Unless there is a creation, there is a preservation and there is a destruction, there is a cause for creation, there is a cause for preservation and there is a cause for destruction. Again, there is no world. And the one who is a cause is called Purusha. In other words, first point is Upadana Karana or material cause, and the second is Nimitta Karana or efficient cause. So only where there is efficient cause and material cause, and the third one is to go beyond this, it is called Param, or the highest, Nirgunam, which is completely having no more characteristics. Nirvikalpam, going through no change. Satya Jnana Ananda Lakshanam. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. But now it becomes easy, because what are we driving at? When you read the mantra, Namo Vanchate Parivanchate Stayunam Pataye Namo. This fellow is a leader of all cheats. This fellow is a leader of all those cheats who do repeated cheating. So to be able to see the universal Ishvara behind all these things, to look at it as compassion, look at all of them with compassion, and to punish with compassion. What do we mean by punishing with compassion? No less, no more. Sometimes punishment meted out by a person who is in authority will be far in excess of what a particular crime deserves. That's why we need to have a code of criminal procedure. Otherwise, the prejudices of the judge will hurt the society. So to make us aware of all these things and not get affected by all of those, we have seen Om Namaha. So next week we will see Bhagavate Rudraya.